Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are ready to start designing the Saturn V. Of course, we don't quite have all of the tech we would like to make that happen. For the moment, I'm actually going to kind of scrap what we've got here on Apollo 7, and we're going to start brand new here. So we're not going to save Apollo 7, that is already saved. And I've got here an image of Apollo 8 on the crawler here. So that is absolutely fine. We can see we've definitely got the 5 engines down here with these big ol' F1 engines. And then we've got this tank here. This would be, I think, best done with the Mammoth engine. That's what it's designed for, but we don't have access to that. So we're going to have to be at the 2.5 meter width here. That's the widest we have. And then we go down, and then we go down again, right? So we're going to actually have to have this, for the moment, be at the smaller size. So that's going to be real interesting, and I'm not sure how we're going to cram the Lamb in there. But that is not a job for this flight. So we're going to hop back on in here. We're going to grab a pod, and I'm going to grab the one-seater command pod here. The Mark II command pod is, I think, is that the same size? No, it's larger. Okay, so I want the Mark I command pod here. And that's going to be for our command module. Apparently I can't grab that while we don't have a root part. Awkward. Okay, so the Mark I command pod, and we're going to color this white. There we go. And that is going to be what we're going to base our CSM off of. However, we need to have some crew capacity here. So for the time being, we'll put in a crew cabin, and that will be what we would return. So we would then need to have some science on here, right? So we would then look to have a service bay. So a 1.25 meter ferry. And of course, this is a little bit inaccurate at this point. This is only being done due to fairing, or not really fairing, but rocket radius limitations at this moment. So that's fine. I'm going to do a service bay. I also want to have a science junior on this thing. That is going to be absolutely useful for us. So we'll have a science junior there. We'll rotate our service bay to be something like this. This is going to be what we're going to return, and that's kind of a lot. I do want to have some monoprop on here, and we probably need to have monoprop in these roundified monoprop tanks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to awkwardly turn these around and clip them inside of our crew cabins. And we're going to use this as a combination, if I can get there. We're going to use this as a combination crew cabin and monoprop containment facility. Okay, so we're going to put that there, and we're going to turn these on around. That is not the direction I wanted to go. We're going to turn these on around, and we're going to move them on in. So we're just going to clip them in and hide them inside something like that. When I want to move them a little further, there we go. And then we're going to grab ourselves our command and control here. We do have a reaction wheel in this command pod. That's fine. But I want to have some RCS thruster blocks here. We're going to do, I think, actually 3 of them. 3 is going to be awkward because these are, yeah, it'll have to be set up kind of like this, I think, because of the way that the windows are set up, right? So something along the lines of this will be approximately our command module and what we're going to return. It's rather large. And again, that is because of rocket size limitations here. So for the moment, this is reasonably fine. What we do want to do, of course, is put in a heat shield here. So a 1.25 meter heat shield, and then we're going to have a decoupler here, and then a very, very small stage here. So I'm going to put in a, I think probably like a T200 fuel tank. Just something like that. So this will be, this is very, 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 very long. Can we think of a better way to have the crew capacity? Remember, they have to come back, all of them, in this. So that's definitely going to be a little bit on the awkward side. Eventually, this is going to be a docking port. For the time being, we're going to use it as our launch escape tower mounting point. So we're going to use this launch escape system for the time being. This is the smaller one. And as far as parachutes go, this is going to be a pretty heavy payload to bring back. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a pair of radial mount drogue chutes here and here. Hopefully that might actually obstruct the hatch. I'm going to do it here and here, and then a pair of regular chutes. These are regular chutes. We want the, no, those are not. Regular chutes here, and here. Hopefully not obstructing that hatch would be the idea. So something kind of like that. It's mildly awkward, no doubt about it. But that'll do for now. Inside of this service bay, we're going to include some amount of battery. We probably don't need a huge amount of it. We're just going to do something like this. We're going to have a flight computer in here. We may want to have a backup flight computer just in case. So it would be something kind of like that. Then we would have our science experiments in here. So we would end up including a too-hot thermometer. And I would want to detach all of this to make sure it's attached to the right point. So we would have that there. We would have a press mat barometer here. Then we would have a mystery goo containment unit. This does not want to rotate the way I want it to. There we go. Got there in the end. And that's all the science we have unlocked for right now. But we should probably bring a storage container. So that would actually buy us some space for our parachutes, which would be very convenient. A experiment storage unit there, and then we can put our radial mount drogue chutes here, and we can put our regular parachutes here. We could even toss on an extra pair of parachutes if we felt like it was necessary, which I'm going to do just in case. This is a pretty heavy payload that we're bringing back. To be clear, I don't believe we actually need those parachutes, but that's what we'll do for now. So then we'll put our heat shield on here, our decoupler, and our fuel tank, and of course, a small engine here. Honestly, probably, well, is a Terrier better specific impulse? What is our best specific impulse engine at this size? We've got the Pug, which is, where are we? 330 in the vacuum, 330 seconds, and 345. So the Terrier is better specific impulse. So we'll do something like that. We should name this as Apollo 8. And to be clear, we're probably going to be upgrading this after this flight with a Block 2 Apollo. So for now, I want to put a TD-12 decoupler here. That's going to be our command module. It's a very large command module, and it's going to be downsized after this flight. So the one that we need to have, the LAM, is going to the lunar module is going to end up being next flight. Okay, so we'll have to have that solved by then. Noted. So for now, we're going to want to adapt out once. So something along the lines of this. I'm checking coloration. Yes, this adaptation area is absolutely colored like so. Although we could have it be like this. And then this would end up being like, yeah, that's definitely not the right size. Yeah, something like this. Okay, I'm wondering right now, are any of these other fuel tank adapters okay for this? Yes, this is better. This is absolutely better. So we would do something like this. This should really be, oh, gray and orange is basically pure gray. Should be black, but that'll do for the time being. And then we're going to have a bit of a tank here. And then we're going to attach on, this is probably going to end up being a Poodle. And that's a little large, right? So we're going to go for a compact version of the Poodle so that fits on a little bit better. I wish that this was black instead of gray, but this will, in fact, do. So that's going to be our third stage there. That's fine. And then we're going to have a TD-18 decoupler. Like so. Ooh, that's awkward looking. It's because of the Poodle engine. Maybe we downsize that? What is the specific impulse of Poodle? 350. So it is a little bit better than the Terrier. Okay. Any way we slice this is going to be mildly awkward looking. Yeah, it is going to be mildly awkward looking. We're going to have this be a compact Poodle. I don't like the fact... Interesting. There's a single version of it. I didn't realize that. This is going to be kind of large on the decouple side, right? So, yeah, this is all fine. Unfortunate that that is like that. Very unfortunate, but we need the space here because we're going to have to go out again. So we're going to have to expand this another time. This is going to end up being... Do we have an expansion adapter for that? I don't know if we do. Kind of no. But also kind of yes. Yes, we do. Cool. So this is going to be adapting out, and I don't think we have... Well, is this good for Rockamax size? Yeah, this is good for Rockamax size. Okay, so at this point, we are in this stage here. right? So this is like the second stage, and then this is the first stage. So that's going to be what we're going to be targeting here. So that's absolutely fine. And then we are going to... Well, I just want to check what is the... Yeah, this is actually good. This is actually good. So we're going to go for probably another poodle here. Technically, this is probably not the best way to go. But we're going to go for another poodle here for our second stage. And this one, I think we're going to go with the 4-nozzle version, just to have it be a little bit different. Actually, maybe we should have this be the single compact, or the single, and then this would end up being the quad. So the quad, compact, white shroud. Something like that. Yeah, that'll do. So then we've got the single here. We'd go for a TD25 decoupler. This should ideally be like black, but unfortunately we don't really have a great way to do that. White shroud is the way we do it. So at this point, this should really be striped black, but we don't have an option for that. This thing's getting really tall. No doubt about that one. But we don't bow back out again. So at this point, we would be going for a 232. And it would end up being, I don't know if we'd do 4. I need to check the actual, I think maybe 3 for the actual ratio here. Yeah, that seems about right. So then we would have 5 F1 engines on the bottom of this. And this is, of course, going to have to be clipped together a little bit for the moment. So that's okay. We would then end up putting, like, mainsails on here. We would do 4 of them mounted approximately like this. And we're going to be going for compact mainsails. 1.875. No, we're going to have to go for as compact as possible. Now, in reality, interestingly, we have a small option here. So we could put a mainsail here, and this would be a 2.5 meter mainsail, like this. What would that be for lifting power? 1.33 right there. Okay, so if we were to look at the actual rocket here. So this guy right here. See how the fuel tanks kind of move out and then merge in down here? And there's also fins at each of those locations. We can kind of emulate that by having some stages here. So what we would end up doing here is we would have quad radial decouplers out over this way. We would need some relatively small fuel tanks here, and these are probably, for the merging component, going to end up being these bad boys. And then we would just move these to be approximately like this, right? And we would never actually decouple this. We would need to ditch the solid fuel in them, for sure. And we would do something kind of like this. This would get moved all the way up here. We'll check our staging in a bit here. But then we'd have additional mainsails out here, and these are probably going to need to be either compact or 1.875 meter. 1.875 meter actually works. I like it. So then we would definitely want fuel to flow from the inside out, mildly awkwardly. And then I would want to strut these together to make sure that they were nice and solid. So we'll strut them here, and we'll strut them at the top as well. Something like this. The main thing that I don't like is this interstage here. We just don't have an engine that fits onto 1.875 meter, right? Wait. Are there additional options here? Single compact orange gray. Okay. So that's a negative. So we're going to have this be quad white shroud for the moment. That'll be fine. And this definitely gives it a little bit of a Soyuz look. It wasn't this extreme, right? But we can definitely do something along the lines of that. Now, how long is that actually going to burn for? This claims 19 seconds. I don't know if that's true or not. We should put this out on the pad and find out. If we're going to consume all of this in 19 seconds, that said, this thrust to weight is insane. So we probably want to limit down this thrust a bit, or maybe even back off of mainsails. Hang on, I want to check the specific impulse of a skipper at sea level. 280 compared to a skiff, which is 265 compared to a mainsail, which is actually more efficient. Okay, so we do want to use mainsails here then. Noted. So these are going to be 1.875, and we're going to want to probably move this up just a touch here. I'm going to turn off snapping. Okay, something like that, and just move them a little bit more in, like this. Okay, so something kind of like that. So this is 3.7, right? We know that this engine, only one of these? Only the center engine has been thrust limited. So let's bring that down to about 20% thrust for all of them. And let's see how that goes. 0.87? Okay, we're going to need a little bit more thrust than that. Let's try 25 on the outer engines here. And the inner engine, we can boost that up to 25 as well. That puts us up to 1.12. Okay, how is it if we take it up to 30? Keep in mind, this is trading fuel. Our fuel is going to be the main problem right now. 1.7. Okay, that'll do. So that's absolutely fine. This decouple happens at the same time that this engine fires. This decouple happens at the same time this engine fires. This decouple happens at the same time this engine fires. This, in theory, would be manually triggered. And then we would need drogue chutes. So that is radial mount parachutes. These are the drogue chutes here. That looks good. And then this radial decoupler would never, ever, ever fire. Okay, so obviously this is not as wide of a fuel fairing as we want to have. We're going to have to upgrade this in a block 2. Let's put this out on the pad in a reversible test. I want to see how this first stage performs. So this is absolutely going to be reverted, and we don't have fins on here either. Okay, we'll see how necessary the fins are, but we are going to put them on no matter what. The fins should be black colored, right? Double checking here. Yeah, pretty much black colored. Okay, so that's fine. Throttle up, SAS on. Let's see how horrible this is. It's a very strange looking Saturn V. No doubt about that. So we're very solid off the pad. We're not shocked about that one. Okay, we've got some pretty big bending going on here. So that's certainly noted. This is, I suspect it's this joint that's causing it. And this joint here, potentially. Well, we could certainly turn off our reaction wheel. That might help a little bit. But all things considered, yeah, there's a really big bending problem around this joint. So we're going to need to do something about that. That's for sure. And we can see that we're nearly out of fuel for our first stage already. So I think we should probably extend this down by at least one additional. This bending is definitely a problem. No doubt about that. By the way, this is going to be, from here on out in the Apollo program, we're probably going to be doing 2 episodes per flight, just for the record, because they're going to be getting more intense. So that's okay. We can see our apoapsis height is reasonably high. If we didn't have the bending, this would definitely be better. But I do want to extend that. Okay, so we're going to revert that back, and we are going to make a few changes to this. That's absolutely fine for the moment, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down. We're going to toss in another Rockamax 32 tank. I'd like to make this... I would like to make these stripey, actually, but we kind of don't have a great option for that. We do need tail fins down over here. I have no idea how these are going to perform because they're going to be at a bit of a jaunty angle, but that's probably fine. Okay, now, this bending issue. Unfortunately, that pretty much means we need struts. I don't like it, but we'll need struts on here, almost certainly. So something along the lines of this might solve it. Let's put that out on the pad, but we're probably going to need, 1.52. I'm going to bump these up to 45 and 45. This one was still a bit lower. 1.8. I'm actually going to keep this at 35. 1.72. That's better. Okay. So we'll put this out on the pad. Again, this is a reversible test, and we're going to see how this performs. Have we fixed the bending issue? And how is our first stage performance-wise? Those are the main questions. But we have to remember, this is a 3-stage rocket, not a 2-stage rocket, a 3-stage rocket plus our spacecraft. So, off we go. Okay, we've definitely still got some bending going on up here. No doubt about that. That's for sure. It is better, I think. I definitely think it's better. And we've certainly got more fuel in here. But I'm not sure how much more burn time we actually have. Or how much more burn time we actually need. It's definitely a lot more stable. We haven't immediately started hitting the big bend that we did without any inputs previously. I'm concerned about how a gravity turn in this will go. That's for sure. Okay, so at this point, let's do a gravity turn stress test. Okay. We are not able to turn further than about here at this juncture. So we can't... We're too stable for any sort of a big tumble event. That's a good sign. That said, it's a little awkward, but it is a stress test, right? So this is reasonably fine. Ooh, okay. A little bit difficult to control. We definitely still have some wiggling going on here. But all things considered, I mean, that's a decent apoapsis height that we got to. That feels pretty doable, really. Okay. So one thing that I'd like to do is just activate this and decouple it and have it get out of the way, ideally. So something like that. Get out of here. Phenomenal. Now we shouldn't have to worry about that at all. So I think that that proves... Oh, these decouplers are... This engine should go here. There we go. That's a little bit better. I think that this definitively proves this rocket to be viable. Okay, now we've only got Jeb in here right now, and of course that's going to need to be fixed. So, like I said, this is a revertible, and we are going to be reverting it. We've got plenty of Delta V for a trip to the moon and a return trip back. No doubt about that. So we'll revert that back. This is going to be upgraded with a Block 2 later on. This Saturn V is definitely unfinished. And I really, really don't like what we've got going on here. But that was certainly a lot better of a flight. So we're going to be bringing along Bob and Bill. And we're going to put this out on the pad. And now we're ready for a real flight. Now, I would make the tail fins dark colored. Except for the small problem that we can't make the booster, like, jut out points where our F1 engines are attached. We can't make those dark. And in reality, it should be like striped down here. If we were to replace these with 16s, that's a theoretical possibility. That's probably something that we'll look to do on our upgrade. For now, we need to make our way out to the moon. So, up we go. In our, I guess we'll call this the F0 rocket. It's not... Or not F0, that was the F1 engines. The engines are fine. There's not a problem with the engines. It's the rocket. So instead of this being the Saturn V, maybe we'll call this the Saturn 4.99. We have the 5 engines, right? But it could certainly use some tweaking. There's no doubt about that. So I do want to get us a decent amount of altitude. This first stage on this iteration of the rocket is a little bit underpowered. I feel like that's a continual refrain here, but it's absolutely true. Once we get this ramped up a little bit, we'll need tech for that, of course. Once we get this ramped up a little bit, things are going to get a lot better in terms of this first stage power. But as it is, it seems relatively okay. So we're going to start heading on over with a bit more of a cautious-ish gravity turn. I say as that apparently creates some wiggling. Okay. Well, we're just going to head over for a little less cautious of one then, if we know that this ascent profile is fine, which we do. We absolutely know that this ascent profile is fine. So we're heading on over here. Cool. We're just going to park over here at the horizon. We've got plenty of altitude. Okay, let's ditch that. Hopefully that will make us less wiggly. We will need to deal with that problem. Again, that is something that will happen on the Block 2 Saturn V. For now, we just need to get our moon flyby so that we can get some science. And I am planning on... Well, are we planning on getting high and low orbit science? I don't know. I was thinking about getting low lunar orbit science on... That would have been Apollo 10, because they fly the lunar module quite far down and then abort the landing, right? So I'm thinking about doing that. So this is probably going to be lunar high science, is what's going to end up happening there. So we need to get this up into orbit here, and that's absolutely fine. We are absolutely delighted to get this thing into orbit. And we'll also head on over to the moon, and I think we'll do our moon activities in the next episode. So we've got a little bit of ways to go here. It's going to be an ever so slightly long episode. I'm going to activate this engine and decouple it again, like we did before. And off it goes. Phenomenal. So that'll be fine. Hopefully it gets a slightly different trajectory and doesn't, come back and hit us. That'd be very awkward. We do know our time to apoapsis is currently going down, so we need to continue to push here. What is our thrust to weight? 0.65? That's not too bad. We do need quite a lot of speed, though. We should really be on prograde right now. And that's exactly where we're going to go. Okay. So we're parking here at prograde, and we are going to burn here... Well, I'm just watching our time to apoapsis going down here, right? That's the main problem at this moment, is our time to apoapsis declining. We need a fair amount more speed here. Which probably means in future we should target higher orbits rather than like 100 kilometer. But we need to get more vertical speed at this point. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to burn at 45 degrees, and we're going to target a higher orbit here. Let's target about 150. We can see here time to apoapsis is now going up. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And if we're targeting 150, then this should be reasonably fine. We're just going to need to burn here until we gain a decent amount of horizontal speed, right? But for now, we need more vertical speed. And this is definitely indicative that that first stage is underpowered, but we're not surprised about that with this first iteration. So that's completely okay. No major issues there. 96 kilometers apoapsis, and we can see our time to apoapsis is almost up to 1 minute. Once it gets up to 1 minute, I'm going to go back pure horizontal, which is about right now. Okay, heading back to pure horizontal. Overshot it slightly, but that's okay. And we'll just park it about here. Beautiful. And we're going to target an apoapsis height of 150. I think that's a reasonable place to target. We're very close to orbital velocity right now, so that shouldn't be too bad. This is a pretty long burn to get this thing into orbit, though. That is indicative of the fact that that first stage is a bit underpowered. Or not that it's underpowered, right? It's underfueled. And the reason for that is because it has a smaller diameter, right, than what we're actually targeting. We're actually targeting it to have a little bit higher of a diameter than a 2.5 meter. So that's certainly going to be an upgrade that we'll do. We're just not quite there yet. Cool. So we actually see our periapsis height creeping upward here. We're actually in orbit now. We don't need to do a circularization burn, technically, but we will regardless. That's 150, and at the apoapsis, we, of course, want to do a prograde burn and circularize that right on up. That's going to be a very, very minor burn indeed. Yeah, only like 50 meters per second. So that's absolutely fine. We've got a decent amount of fuel left in our stage 2 here, so that seems good. And of course, our stage 3 is going to be quite a bit more thrust to weight. So that's absolutely magnificent as well. Since that uses the same engine, just a different model. I want to check in on our electric charge. Looks okay. Cool. So we're going to get into orbit, and then we're going to do our transit burn, and then we'll do the rest of this mission in the next episode, I think. So let's warp on forward for this. There we go. We are in position for our circularization. How are we doing on inclination? 0.4? Probably good enough. Okay. 40 seconds. 30. 20. 10. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Mark. Excellent. So that puts us in a nearly perfectly circular orbit. We're off a little bit, but that's fine. Now we can target the moon, and that looks to me... Not Sputnik 1. No. Get out of here. I wanted to grab around here. Looks to me like a burn time around here or so. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so what do we got? This would be a moon low orbit. Like I said, we're targeting only moon high right now. So let's target about 500 kilometers. Somewhere around here. There we go. That looks good. And we'll actually enter orbit there. So we're going to hop into stability assist, and we're going to get into position for this burn. This is going to be an 800 meter per second burn. So we'll have to use some of our stage 2 for this, which is fine. We're going to have more than enough fuel for this, which is a very good thing, because we're going to need more fuel than what we have. Keep in mind we need to also bring the LAM, the Lunar Ascent Module. Well, just the lunar module in general. So the lunar module will add some weight to this. So having some extra fuel budget is good. The main concern at this point is having the thrust budget early on in that flight when we have that added in. So that's why we're heading off to get ourselves a decent amount of science from the moon here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. And off we go to the moon. So this is going to be about a 1-minute burn. I don't think I'm going to physics warp it while we have this stage here, because we know we have some potential spaghetti here. That said, we can see how it goes. Actually, it's not bad. Noted. Just adjusting our heading ever so slightly here. This is almost purely prograde, of course. Okay. Stage 2 is burned out now. Let's go stage 3. Oof. This is clearly set up wrong. Okay, we want to switch that over to the compact version, but that's okay. So we're just going to grab all of this. That seems fine, and of course we didn't change this to here. That's another thing that we're going to want to do. But I just want to finish up this burn here. Chasing the node a little bit. Okay, that should be good enough. How are we looking? Oh yeah, 400 kilometers, that's fine. So we're just going to set up a circularization here. In reality, they orbited 10 times. We're probably only going to orbit a time or two to get what science we can. But something along the lines of this will do, and then we'll do a return. And that'll be a next episode sort of thing. This definitely needs to get corrected. We'll fix that too. I'll do that actually as soon as we finish this episode so that I don't forget. Well, we're going to be revisiting this anyway. We're going to be rebuilding the Saturn V to upgrade it a little bit and make it more accurate. We can probably do it then. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and next episode, we are off to visit the moon. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.